out here in the prayer garden with good friend, mentor, ally, Bernie Reese, attorney of more than 50 years. And Bernie Reese wrote the brief that was submitted to the Supreme Court in the Mojave Desert Cross case. He's done other briefs for Faith Action, a number of other national and international organizations. And Bernie, when we say writing a brief, you're not talking about a 2-page treatise here. No. You're talking about a book. It's a bound book. This is an enormous amount of research, an enormous amount of writing. I want you just to get a look at this. This is what a Supreme Court brief looks like, and it's actually bound, just like a book is bound. So this is an enormous amount of work. I hope I didn't
No, you didn't
help make you lose your place there.
No, I didn't have a place.
Bernie, I want to get...
I'm lost in this one.
Well, you got a lot of material in here, and I want to talk about it because it's really the foundation of this whole argument in the Mojave Desert Cross case. There's something at the heart of it. We could talk about the legal aspects. We could talk about even the constitutional dimensions of it. We can certainly talk about the sentimental aspects of it, covering up a cross set up by veterans to memorialize their fallen brethren. But there is a core issue here, and I want you to educate our people, talk to our people about it, because it has to do with the founding document of this country, the very foundation of our American civilization. You tell us.
Well, I like to start off with the fact that the foundation of this nation, the nation had to have a foundation. And each life has got to have a foundation. This nation had a foundation of moral law. And moral law, let me just read this from my brief. Moral law cannot be the product of the political or judicial process. If that's attempted, then all is relative. There's no right or wrong. Indeed, as a matter of fact, there is no law. And it's like a life. Unless it has a foundation established in God through faith in Jesus Christ, a life doesn't have a basis for making decisions. You make them all out of your own brain. And
Jesus called that building our house upon the sand.
Absolutely.
There's nothing there to anchor it in the storms of life. And the same would go for a nation. What goes individually goes collectively.
Well, you know, a nice condensation, compilation is Light and Glory by, his name slips my mind.
Peter Marshall.
Peter Marshall, sure.
Whose dad was the Senate chaplain.
Yes.
Here during a very critical period.
Absolutely,
He was sort of the revived chaplaincy.
And so Peter wrote this book of why did America come into existence? Look, we're talking really over the head of if we're just talking politics and the like, but this is an issue that's got to be addressed in the church, and it's not being addressed, that we're in a spiritual war, that Satan has for his objective destruction of man and the rulership of the world, and anything that God is using to advance his kingdom, he wants destroyed.
Including this nation that was founded on that very principle that you're enunciating now in that declaration, which was our founding instrument, our birth certificate, and you call it the first legal instrument.
Yeah,
it's not the Constitution, it's the Declaration of Independence.
No, cutting to the chase, the Constitution did not bring the United States of America into existence. It did not provide us with any rights. And a lot of times from a lawyer you'll get some arguments, and I say, okay, what right did the Constitution? Well, it was this. I said, no, that's not a right. I said, we're talking about rights of a human being. And so the Declaration, well, a simple issue is a guy goes through a stop sign, and the cop stops him, and he says, what color was the light when you went through? Red. And the guy says, well, officer, he said, no. What does red mean? It means stop. Okay, well, the guy says, no. He says, that's it. Here's your ticket. You went through a red light. It means stop. Now, the Declaration of Independence is a stop sign to invasion of our right to worship God in public, the right of God to be recognized and promoted in our government, in our school system,
Now,
etc.
let's say how so, because I'm not going to take for granted that everybody watching this has read the Declaration of Independence. In fact, in schools, it's virtually ignored now. But the announcement is made quite clear there that these United States are based on certain self-evident truths. Truth is not fungible. Truth is absolute.
Absolute.
And non-changing. And those truths are that we are created, that we are created beings,
Yep.
right?
Right.
We are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. And there's more there. I mean, you
Yeah.
mine the Declaration, you have a reference to nature, the laws of nature, and nature's God.
Which has a specific meaning. Well, here's what the Declaration says. It starts off with this magnificent paragraph. We hold these truths to be self-evident. This was not guesswork on the part of the founders, that all men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And here's the key, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. Now, what is there about that somebody doesn't understand? The Declaration did not establish a government. The Declaration built a foundation of law on which that government was to be constructed.
And the government, according to that statement, exists for a reason, and that is to secure those rights that are self-evident. They're already given to us by God. So that's what this is saying.
Right. And so the Constitution did not establish the rights. It was adopted to protect the rights, and the Declaration in itself did not create rights. The Declaration is declaring that man doesn't create rights, government doesn't create rights, the judicial process doesn't create rights, God does. And so that's why it says it is self-evident.
And unalienable, because if those rights are given to us by God, only God can take them. No human agency can take them, and no human being can give them away. So they're unalienable. You can't surrender your rights, and you can't have them taken away by any earthly entity.
Right. And of course, I think that's what's going on in this nation today. We've seen God kicked out. But and the last paragraph of the Declaration appeals directly to God. And it appeals to God as the supreme judge of the world for the rectitude of our attentions.
Wow. Let's pause for a minute. Just think about that, folks. This is one of the titles of the Almighty that our founders recognized, the supreme judge of the world.
Amen.
Meaning any earthly judge, including the 9 justices of the Supreme Court who will hear this Mojave Desert Cross case tomorrow. You and I will be in the courtroom chamber when those arguments are made. This brief is part of that case. And they will account to a higher judge. Right. The supreme judge of the world. We have a Chief Justice across the street. In fact, when you and I were doing a news conference earlier today, I saw him come out of the driveway, and he was going to turn towards us, and his driver decided, I don't think I want to get in the middle of that, so they turned the other direction. That was the Chief Justice of the United States, but there is a supreme judge of the world to whom the Chief Justice and every other human being is held to account.
Well, I know we don't have time for a lesson on the Declaration, but the thing of it is that it not only established the fact that we were created by God, and incidentally, what are we teaching our school kids? We're teaching them the theory of evolution, which was adopted by Nietzsche and was developed by Hitler in one of the most tragic parts of our century. But at any rate, it established that God created us with equal rights, and then gave us those rights which were predicated upon nature's law and nature's God. And there is a distinct definition of that.